Our story begins with a quiet tension in the air. Inside a grand yet dimly lit room, two figures stood by a large table, Melchior Postenmeier and Rosaline. They were reviewing the contract for their impending marriage. Melchior, composed and dignified, gestured to the document with a calm tone. "Let me know if you have any issues with anything," he said. "That is just the default marriage contract. You may add a few conditions as needed." Rosaline hesitated. "I don't think adding anything will help," she said quietly. Melchior frowned. "What? This part?" she said, pointing. "Melchior Postenmeier, my name? Are you saying that I'm not good enough to be your husband? What is it about me that bothers you?" he asked, startled. "I'm not saying that you're not good enough," Rosaline replied gently, but her voice carried years of weariness. Melchior looked at her, his eyes filled with questions. Rosaline took a deep breath. "You are the Empire's only Archduke, the head of its most noble family. I've heard you're an excellent knight, extremely wealthy. But is this not our first meeting?" She stepped back slightly, memories washing over her. "Looking back, my life has always been this way. A daughter? This family needs an heir. I suppose you'll do. Rosaline, you must be trained as the successor." "That's what I was told. From a young age, I was forced into rigorous training for the sake of my family. Studying day and night, sacrificing sleep, working endlessly to earn my parents' approval." Her voice grew more distant. "Then Alphonse was born. My little brother. A miracle, they called him. I was 12. Suddenly, all my training was put on hold. They sent me away to boarding school. But when it became clear that Alphonse was too sickly to be trained," her father's voice echoed in her mind. "This man is your fiancé now. He will join our family, and the role of family head will be turned over to Alphonse once he is old enough. Also, we can no longer afford to send you to boarding school." "I'm nothing but a prop," Rosaline said bitterly. "I'm not allowed to make my own decisions. This is how my life has always been." Her memories were soon interrupted by Case. One day, the palace came under siege. A man's voice boomed through the gates. "Members of the Crimson Rose House, admit to breaking imperial law and show yourselves." Her mother rushed to her side, terrified. "What is going on, Rosaline?" Rosaline stood calmly by the window. "It seems father took up gambling," she said, almost emotionless. "He died while running from the knights. And now, they're here with evidence, demanding we turn ourselves in." "I know that," her mother cried. "That's not what I'm asking. What's going to happen to us?" Rosaline turned to her. "I'll stop them. Mother, please take Alphonse and hide." "What? How are you going to stop those soldiers by yourself?" her mother asked in horror. Rosaline picked up a sword. "I'll do whatever I can." Her mother trembled. "Are you insane? If you do that, those men might harm my son before we're even tried." "That's why I'm telling you to hide," Rosaline said, her voice calm and steady. Without another word, she began walking toward the attackers. "Rosaline! Rosaline!" her mother cried out, but Rosaline didn't look back. The palace guards tried to hold the line, but they were no match for the intruders. "This is most uncivil," a servant pleaded. "I implore you, please wait. At least give the madam enough time to get rid of anyone who gets in your way," the attackers' leader shouted. "Find every single one of them." Rosaline stepped into their path, sword in hand. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded. The captain stepped forward. "Lady Crimson Rose? I am the captain of the Azure Knights. Count Crimson Rose has broken imperial law by participating in gambling. This goes against the virtue of nobility and demeans the Empire's dignity. You must be aware this is a felony akin to treason." Rosaline gripped her sword tightly. "No, I am not. Come clean and admit your guilt. Your sentence will only worsen if you resist," the captain warned. "But if I do not resist, I would be admitting to a crime I did not commit. That is how imperial law works, is it not?" she asked, then raised her sword. "I cannot allow you to arrest me for my father's actions. If you intend to arrest me, you'll have to work for it," she charged. "There she is!" "After her!" the captain shouted. "They're faster than I expected," she muttered. "In that case, stay away!" Rosaline fought bravely, outmatching the soldiers with grace and fury. One by one they fell. But soon, 2 men slipped past her and seized her mother and brother, placing a sword to her mother's neck. "Rosaline! Help!" her mother cried. "Are you really taking my mother and brother hostage? You, the captain of the Azure Knights?" Rosaline asked bitterly. "If you hadn't resisted in the first place, they wouldn't be in danger," the captain replied coldly. "Since you just lost your father, I'm sure you wouldn't want to lose the rest of your family. Please, let Alphonse and my mother go," she begged. They didn't. They bound her hands and dragged her out to the garden, where she lay on the ground, helpless. "You can forget about getting to the capital in one piece," the captain sneered. "You call that thing a proper sword?" One man grabbed her hair and yanked her up. "What, not even a peep? Are you scared? You were running amok just moments ago." Rosaline stared at him, defiant. "Seems like you wouldn't have been a knight for much longer, even without my help." "Ha! Excuse me? I'm saying you should be grateful I only injured your wrist. That way, you can retire with your dignity intact." "You cocky little bitch!" the captain exploded. "Go on, keep running your mouth." Rosaline lay back again, silent, her thoughts heavy. "I guess I'll be executed once I get to the capital. Maybe it's better to die than to go on living like this." Then something shifted. The beating stopped. "Wait, why did they stop kicking me?" she wondered. A new voice cut through the air. The captain turned, alarmed. "Are you Her Majesty's knights?" Rosaline slowly raised her head, hearing an unfamiliar voice echoing through the garden. "Who is he?" she whispered. And so, the story of Rosaline took a new turn. A handsome man stood tall in front of Rosaline. The tension that had filled the air just moments ago dissolved as all the soldiers around him dropped to one knee in unison. His commanding presence alone was enough to change the atmosphere. "Are you Her Majesty's knights?" he asked, his voice calm yet laced with authority. The captain, still kneeling, looked up nervously. "Your Grace, what brings you here? I could ask you the same thing," the man replied sharply. "Well," the captain stammered. "Her Majesty ordered us to arrest the members of the House of Crimson Rose." "Crimson Rose?" the man echoed, raising an eyebrow. Rosaline, still weak but observant, found herself captivated. His eyes, they're as cold as a frigid winter storm. They make him look like he's not even alive. Is it because they're so blue? She wondered silently. The man's voice cut through her thoughts. "So your excuse for wrecking the whole manor is that you were arresting everyone?" The captain hesitated. That's because they were hiding from us. Since when can people hide behind picture frames and vases?" the man countered, his tone icy. The captain shrank under his gaze. "Oh, then you should go back inside and look for the rest. I will be in charge of her." The captain's eyes widened. We can't do that, Your Grace. The Empress ordered us not to hand the criminals over to anyone. The Emperor has given me permission to take her with me," the man stated, his voice brooking no argument. "You're not implying that the Empress's orders supersede the Emperor's, are you? Or do you mean to make my Obsidian Knights search the manor for you?" "And no, of course not," the captain responded quickly, squeezing his eyes shut in frustration. "Escort the Lady Hines," the Archduke ordered. "Yes, Your Grace," his servant replied. Hines approached Rosaline gently. "I will take you to our medical officer, my lady." Some time later, Rosaline sat quietly as a doctor wrapped bandages around her bruised hands. His expression was tight with disapproval. "Fortunately, your bones seem to be intact. This is an injustice. How could they harm a lady like this? You would think they're common thugs. I suppose they were enraged by being forced into early retirement," Rosaline murmured. "They still shouldn't have done this. What if they had ended up leaving scars on you?" The doctor, named Damien, was the medical officer of the Obsidian Knights. He continued with a softer tone. "Your bruises will heal in no time. And if you take good care of these cuts, they won't leave any scars." Yes, Rosaline responded absent-mindedly. Damien sighed. "Were you even listening? The human body is not invincible, so you have to take good care of it." Rosaline barely heard him. He didn't look like he would nag so much, she thought. Then, aloud, she asked, "When did you say the interrogator would be here?" With a small smile, Damien said, "Oh, he'll be here soon." Then with a polite nod, he excused himself. As the door clicked shut behind him, Rosaline sank deeper into thought. What was with that emphasis on he? Is it someone important? Now that I think about it, aren't interrogation rooms usually dark and stuffy? I've been accused of being a felon, haven't I? I feel like they're treating me too well, considering. Rosaline crimson rose. A voice called behind her. She turned sharply. That voice, standing before her, was the same man, his commanding presence unmistakable. The Archduke? Why is he here? Will he be interrogating me himself? Are you Rosaline Crimson Rose? He asked. Yes, I am. Rosaline, do you know me? She hesitated. I heard the others calling you the Archduke. There is only one Archduke in the Empire, and you're quite famous. He nodded, then pulled out a chair and sat across from her. I see. You're 18 years old and only have a mother and a younger brother, who is 6. Am I right? Yes, Your Grace. They sat across from each other at a small tea table. The Archduke's next question caught her off guard. Why don't you have any other siblings? Excuse me? Do you have a much older sister? Or a cousin who looks a lot like you? I don't. The House of Crimson Rose does not have any extended family members. He leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. What about on your mother's side? Do you have any distantly related family members who look like you? Perhaps someone about 10 years older? Rosaline was confused. What on earth is he talking about? She thought. I don't really know my mother's side of the family. But my red hair and green eyes are from the Crimson Roses. I must have been mistaken then, he said, pulling back. Rosaline blinked. What does any of this have to do with my father's gambling? Gambling, yes. I suppose we must discuss that as well, he said, reaching for a document. Before that, though, I see here that you've put an end to the careers of 20 of Her Majesty's knights. According to their testimonies, you swept through them like a hurricane and targeted their wrist tendons specifically. It was justified, she said plainly. Oh? And why do you say that? Because they tried to arrest me even though I had committed no crime. The only way for me to prove my innocence was to fight back. The Archduke nodded thoughtfully. That's what it says in the law books. Books are not always indicative of reality. You won't be charged with anything else, though. You were never a knight, nor did you ever participate in any sword-fighting competitions. You couldn't have been capable of such a feat against an order of seasoned knights. But I did it. I'm saying that it doesn't sound believable. No one will think to blame you. The numerous injuries among the Azure Knights will be explained away. Going for their dominant hands and severing the wrist tendons is a feat not even skilled swordsmen could manage easily. Would it be difficult for you, too? She challenged. The Archduke narrowed his eyes. Rosaline, do you wish to be charged with injuring the Empress's knights? I will take responsibility for my actions. But I will not admit to anything I have not done. That is not a wise choice. He leaned back, his tone shifting. Rosaline, are you aware of the reason the Azure Knights were there? I am. They found proof that my father was a gambler, and accused my whole family of the same crime. The Empress must have offered to send her own knights. I'm sure she had her reasons for taking care of this herself. And that's why her knights wrecked the whole mansion and… Suddenly she paused. A new thought surfaced. Wait. Come to think of it, it seemed as though they were looking for something rather than someone. The Archduke's eyes sharpened. Is there something you thought of? No, nothing but… She trailed off. Then keep thinking. I'll try to come up with a theory as well. Pardon? She blinked in confusion. I thought he had the answer. Don't go anywhere before you think of something. Even if you do, just stay put, he said, rising to leave. What do you… Before she could finish, a servant rushed in. Your Grace? He called. The Archduke turned. Count Beaglhoff, the Empress's brother, is here to see you. The Archduke's expression turned grim. I knew they were after her. Count Beaglhoff stepped into the grand hall with a practiced smile, raising his hands in an exaggerated welcome. Melchior. I mean, Archduke Postenmeier. I apologize for showing up unannounced. It was urgent, you see. The Archduke regarded him coolly, his expression unreadable. I knew there must be a reason for your sudden visit. Beaglhoff chuckled awkwardly. Haha, thank you for your understanding. Oh. I heard that you are keeping Count Crimsonrose's daughter here. The Archduke's gaze hardened. The Count lost his title and his land, so she is nothing but the daughter of a criminal now. I don't think an interrogation is necessary when the crimes are so obvious. Unfazed, Beaglehoff continued. I'm here to ask you to hand Miss Crimson Rose over to me, HM. The Archduke's voice was unreadable. I'll have to think about that. What I'm saying is, you don't need to go through the bother of interrogating her. Beaglehoff insisted. I am currently keeping Rosaline Crimson Rose here due to her injuries. May I ask why you want me to hand her over to you? The Archduke asked pointedly. Beaglehoff's smile faltered. How can someone have such a cold gaze? He muttered to himself, then said louder. I don't want her for personal reasons. I'm simply saying there's no use in keeping her here. There's nothing more to find out, so why not just send her to jail? I believe there is still a lot that needs to be uncovered. The Archduke replied calmly. HM? But Count Crimson Rose was killed in an accident. Beaglehoff pressed. The Count did not die in an accident, the Archduke said with a sharp edge. He was assassinated inside a carriage. While I've heard of gamblers killing in anger after losing their money, it makes no sense for someone like that to have hired an assassin so quickly. I cannot hand over someone who may be a clue to. Beaglehoff's frustration boiled over. This isn't any of your business. Let the courts handle it. The Archduke's voice remained composed. Actually, as the head of the Postenmeier family, I am responsible for the safety of the members of my household. In other words, I will not hand her over without clear proof. Beaglehoff's eyes widened. A member of your household? What do you mean, member of your household? What do you mean? The Archduke answered without hesitation. Rosaline Crimson Rose is my wife. Beaglehoff stood stunned, unable to comprehend the revelation. His wife? He repeated in disbelief. A few days later, Rosaline wandered the quiet halls of the estate, her expression distant as she looked around. Her gaze landed on an old, ornate clock. Judging by that strange clock, I must be dreaming again, she murmured. I wonder what this room is. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice echoing through the air. Rosaline! Rosaline! She looked around. A young boy? The voice returned. Please wait for me. I've had this dream many times, Rosaline whispered. But I've never heard anyone's voice. Where is it coming from? The voice grew clearer. I'll definitely. So will you, then? So please wait for me. I'll save you. Rosaline's heart pounded. Wait, what does that mean? Everything around her began to blur. Who are you? Where are you? A bright flash engulfed her vision, and she woke with a gasp. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sure that voice is unfamiliar. Who could it be? A knock came at the door. Pardon me, my lady. Is something wrong? Rosaline exhaled shakily. I see, a dream. The doctor stepped in, concerned. I heard a loud noise, so I was afraid something might have happened. Rosaline looked away, confused and emotional. Why do you think the Archduke brought me here? She noticed the doctor and the servant exchanged glances. It's been days since he interrogated me, and he hasn't come back. The doctor hesitated, then spoke. Lady Crimson Rose, are you aware of the fact that you are currently in grave danger? The day you arrived, someone sent by the Empress came here for you. His Grace sent him away, of course. Rosaline's eyes widened. Will that not get His Grace into trouble? He has no legitimate reason to defend me. She paused. Oh, he went to see His Majesty for that reason. Elsewhere, Archduke Melchior knelt before Emperor Balthasar. The Emperor smiled. Melchior, you know how much I favor you, right? I would have allowed you to marry anyone you desired. Thank you, Your Majesty. So why did you get married in secret? The Emperor demanded. You know that nobles must get my permission to marry. I apologize, Your Majesty, Melchior said respectfully. But I had my reasons. Although Rosaline and I were engaged, Count Crimson Rose did not approve. That shouldn't have kept you from getting my permission. You should have asked me for help. Yes, you would have indeed made it possible. However, I could not make you go against imperial law. What do you mean? Because Rosaline is underage and cannot marry without the approval of her guardian. The Emperor recoiled. What? Underage? How old is she? She will soon be 18 and an adult, but her birthday has not passed yet. The Emperor's expression softened, almost impressed. This is incredible. Most people would give up on getting married, but you promised to wait for her to become an adult. And you kept even that a secret from everyone, just to protect her? How chivalrous of you! I always thought you would stay a bachelor forever. You even rejected Princess Anastrat's proposal. I apologize, Your Majesty. That's all right, Melchior, the Emperor said with a fond smile. You know how much I like you. I am still very grateful for the fact that you saved the Empress 6 years ago. I have no memory of that, Melchior admitted. I know. But I remember, so let me be grateful. Suppressing his frustration, the Archduke bowed again. Yes, sire. I will take my leave now. Now that I have gained your approval, I will be going through the process of marrying Rosaline officially. As he turned to leave, the Emperor muttered to herself. It had to be someone from the Crimson Rose family. I should have killed them all when I had the chance. A few days later, Rosaline stood in a hall with the doctor and a servant. His Grace does not remember anything from before he became an adult, the doctor explained. And he has been looking for a woman named Rosaline. That is as much as I can tell you. We don't know much more either. I see, Rosaline murmured. He is looking for someone because he can't remember his past. And because I look a lot like her, he brought me here and even interrogated me. But he didn't send me away, even though I don't know who she is. So why is he keeping me here and protecting me? What should I do? Their conversation was interrupted as Archduke Melchior entered. You just need to sign this, he said, placing a set of papers on the table. Archduke Postenmeier. Your Grace, the doctor exclaimed. Did your audience with His Majesty go well? Rosaline looked at the papers. Sign what? This promissory note, letter of attorney, and marriage certificate. The doctor and servant gasped in shock. Rosaline held the contract in trembling hands, tears spilling down her cheeks as she read. Emperor Balthasar approves of the marriage between Melchior Eckhart Julian Nov Postenmeier and Rosaline Crimson Rose. She looked up, heart pounding. The Archduke had played a masterstroke, presenting their marriage as a fact to gain imperial approval. And now, it was official. Rosaline stormed into the room, her voice trembling with disbelief. You told the Emperor that we got married in the spring? That I'm no longer a member of the Crimson Rose family? Archduke Melchior nodded calmly. Yes. So you cannot be held responsible for your father's crimes. Your mother and brother will be fined instead of going to jail, and those fines, as well as the cost of reinstating your family's title and territory, will be paid in full by the Postenmeier family. Rosaline's eyes widened, her voice rising in shock. What? Confused, she took a step back. I don't understand any of what you just told me, Your Grace. Don't you think it's strange to marry a woman you don't even know? Is it so strange that I am willing to marry you in order to save you? The Archduke asked, his tone solemn. Yes, of course it is. You don't know anything about me. Near the corner, the doctor leaned toward the servant and whispered. Maybe His Grace is sick or something? Melchior turned his attention back to Rosaline. You must be aware of the fact that if we do not get married, you might spend the rest of your life in jail. Rosaline stared at him, wounded. Are you saying that you pity me and are simply being charitable? I wished to save you. Is that not enough of a reason? He replied softly. Rosaline's thoughts swirled in confusion. The marriages of high-ranking nobles are of great importance in the Empire. Isn't he being far too flippant about this? Is he trying to swindle me? Or maybe I'm just an easy tool for him to use. But if that's not it either, she looked up, a suspicion forming in her mind. Is it because I look like the woman you've been searching for? Melchior's eyes flickered with surprise. He hadn't told her anything about that. He turned toward the doctor and servant. You too, Rosaline stepped forward defensively. It's not their fault. I'm simply asking you this based on what you told me during my interrogation. But whatever the reason, shouldn't you have asked me to marry you first? There was no time for that, he replied, his voice firm. I was ordered to hand you over as soon as I brought you here, you see. She looked away, her tone pained. You could have still told me your plan then. I was stuck in that room for a whole week without any clue as to what was going on. I had to go and see the Emperor before they could make another move, he said. Rosaline's thoughts turned bitter. Wait. He's making it sound like he did it all for me, but in the end, he had no intention of asking for my opinion. But, It's not like I have any other options right now. She straightened her posture, resolved. All right. I'll sign the marriage contract. A wise decision, he said. On one condition, though. He paused. A condition? Please duel me. Hours later, they stood face to face on the training grounds. Rosaline, why do you insist on dueling me? Melchior asked with a faint smile. I guess I can't just say it's to bring you down a peg. Rosaline held her sword with practiced grace. I've been stuck in that room for quite a while. Since I wasn't allowed outside, I've been itching to get back to sword fighting. Her blade shimmered in the light. Besides, we're getting married. You should learn more about me, right? What a lame excuse. As you wish. As he accepted her challenge, Rosaline studied his stance. Just now, he wasn't giving me permission. Does he actually respect me? Thank you for indulging me, Your Grace, she said. Call me by my name from now on, he replied. All right then. Melchior. They began to fight, Rosaline lunging forward. Her strike was fast, but to her surprise, Melchior didn't unsheath his sword. Instead, he deflected her attacks with subtle redirection, never once drawing his blade. I thought he would use his large frame to his advantage. But he's keeping his sword sheath on purpose, and deflecting my attacks in a certain direction. If I hadn't jumped back, he would have grabbed me. You challenged me to a duel, so I expected you to be stronger, Melchior teased. Rosaline smirked. Ha! Melchior, I hope you won't regret saying that. With a burst of power, she leapt into the air and came down hard. Melchior dodged the blow, but dropped his sword and caught Rosaline around the waist. You're just like her, he murmured. Pardon? You're exactly the same. Please let go of me, Melchior. Your shoulder, it's Rosaline. Who taught you how to fight like that? The Rosaline I knew used the exact same sword fighting technique. Her voice was quiet but firm. Please try to remember. You must have met my Rosaline. When will you let it go? But the way you fight, it's exactly like. I didn't learn this from anyone, she said suddenly. Because I'm the one who came up with this technique. What? I said let go of me, she shouted, wrenching free. Melchior stepped back. Sir Damien, please take care of His Grace's injury. I'm going back to my room, Rosaline announced. Please let Sir Damien take care of you. As she turned and walked away, her mind was spinning. How did it come to this? Being here and taking on this role doesn't even suit me. If I force myself to keep going, will I really find happiness? It might have been better if all of this had happened while I was out cold. Better than trying to force myself into a place I don't belong. She paused, glancing around the unfamiliar corridor. Wasn't I just in the back garden? Her heart pounded. Where am I? Rosaline wandered through the sprawling gardens of the manor, her steps light but uncertain. She glanced around, confusion growing in her heart. Oh, I thought I was in the back garden where the roses were blooming. I had no idea the manor grounds were so huge, she murmured to herself. Maybe the garden is connected to a forest? I'll just keep walking for now. I'll find my way out of this forest, or get back to the garden eventually. Before she could finish her thought, a shout rang out behind her. Stop it! Startled, Rosaline turned swiftly. What was that? She whispered. Through the trees, she spotted a group of students standing together in the garden, cornering a lone boy. It's easy, one student said sharply. All you have to do is sneak into Professor Canute's office and bring back the answer key for the exam. Another added. You go see him all the time, so no one will suspect you. The first student sneered. Besides, a third chimed in mockingly. I bet you get all the answers anyway, since you suck up to the old man so much. How else would you get such good grades? The boy they were bullying finally spoke up, his voice firm despite the pressure. I won't do it. Hey, did you hear that? One of the students snarled, grabbing the boy by his collar. He says he won't do it. I thought you were smart, but I guess I was wrong. Why don't guys like you ever listen when we're being nice? You're asking for it. The boy barely had time to brace himself before the student raised his fist. But before it could fall, a stone struck his hand sharply. What was that? One of the students cried out, bewildered. Another rock flew through the air, hitting another student on the head. Damn it! Where is it coming from? Hidden behind a tree, Rosaline threw another stone, aiming precisely. As the bullies panicked, another stone lodged itself into the bark of a tree near them. I'll get you next time! One shouted in fear as they all bolted away. Left alone, the boy looked around cautiously. Thank you for helping me, he called out, knowing someone was nearby. I would like to thank you face to face. If it's all right with you, would you please come out here? Rosaline hesitated behind the tree, surprised. I kept throwing the rocks from different directions on purpose. How did he find me so quickly? He shouldn't have been able to see me with so many trees in the way. Gathering her courage, she stepped into the clearing. There's no need to thank me. Are you hurt? She asked. No. Thanks to you, I didn't get hurt at all, the boy replied, his voice full of gratitude. Again, there's no need to thank me, Rosaline said softly. It just didn't sit right with me to see so many boys bullying one person. She knew she hadn't done anything extraordinary. She simply couldn't stand by and watch cruelty unfold. Still, the fact remains that you helped me, the boy said. My name is Julian. I am a third-year student at the Imperial Academy. Could I ask for the name of my savior? Rosaline flushed, embarrassed. His savior? How embarrassing. I didn't even do much. I wonder if it's safe for me to tell him my name. After a moment's thought, she decided. I guess I don't have to tell him my surname. It'll be fine. My name, she paused for a second, is Rosaline. Rosaline, Julian repeated, smiling brightly. So that's the name of my savior. Please stop calling me that, she muttered, flustered. Thank you for saving me, Rosaline. Please call me Julian, he said warmly. Please contact me if there's ever anything I can help with. I would like to repay my debt to you. Then again, I suppose there really isn't much I can do to help you. Even if I'm never of any use to you, I still wanted to offer my help. Rosaline studied him quietly, touched by his sincerity. What a nice boy. He's very considerate for his age. Boys like this shouldn't have to deal with bullies growing up. I'll take my leave now. Please take care, Rosaline, Julian said, bowing slightly before he turned and left. Rosaline watched him go, then turned back the way she came. I should hurry back too. If the direction Julian is going leads to the academy, then the Postenmeier Manor should be in the opposite direction. As she walked, the familiar sight of rose bushes caught her eye. Those are the rose bushes I saw earlier. I'm glad I didn't end up getting lost. At last, she returned to the palace. Inside, the Archduke was speaking with someone. As Rosaline stepped through the door, she heard him muse aloud. I wonder if Melchior got his shoulder patched up. Spotting her, Archduke Melchior Postenmeier, turned his attention to her. You were gone for a while, he said. How's your injury, Melchior? She asked with concern. It's nothing to worry about, he replied calmly, settling back into his chair. The wound isn't deep. It'll heal soon. Rosaline lowered her gaze, guilt gnawing at her. I apologize for earlier, Melchior. He paused, surprised. Why are you apologizing? I believe I was being childish. There was no need for me to get so upset, she admitted, reflecting deeply. He might have made all the decisions without asking me, but he did help me in the end. And yet, instead of thanking him, I challenged him to a duel and even wounded him. How could he be fine after getting stabbed by a sword? I shouldn't have been so immature. Thank you, Melchior. I'll sign the marriage contract as promised. Is there anything else you need from me? She asked solemnly. He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. No, not really. Is he being secretive or just honest? Rosaline wondered as she sat down. Still, she was determined. With a deep breath, she picked up the pen and signed the contract. I can't believe that my whole life will change with just one signature. Since it's come to this, I'll do my best to be helpful to the Archduchy. You can do this, Rosaline. Suddenly, something Melchior had mentioned earlier dawned on her. You paid 70 million gold in fines for my family? She exclaimed. A fresh surge of determination filled her heart. I'll have to work really hard for this family, she vowed silently. The contract of marriage between Archduke Melchior Postenmeier and Rosaline Crimsonrose was signed without further incident. Once the ink had dried, both of them quietly left the room, leaving behind only the doctor and a servant. The doctor blinked in disbelief, then exclaimed, What did we just hear? There must be something wrong with my ears, right? Did His Grace actually say he would marry Lady Crimson Rose? The servant, calmly sealing the contract inside an envelope, replied. Yes, he did. Unable to contain his shock, the doctor slumped to the ground. I feel faint. He even rejected a princess. And now he's getting married out of the blue? The servant shook his head as he prepared to leave. It's not out of the blue, Damien. Officially, their relationship has been secretly going on for a while. But isn't that just a lie? Damien protested. It's not uncommon, the servant said with a shrug. When it comes to noble marriages, the circumstances are often embellished. Either way, we must be careful about what we say, for Her Grace's sake. With that, the servant left the room, leaving the stunned doctor to gather his thoughts. The next day, Rosaline found her way to the Archduke's office, her mind set on her new role. Melchior, she said with determination, I would like to learn how to help this family. Melchior, absorbed in paperwork, looked up briefly. How to help this family? What do you mean? Whatever I need to learn to act as the lady of the house, Rosaline clarified. Do as you wish, he replied simply. Rosaline blinked in confusion. That's all? He's not going to walk me through it? She thought. Who will teach me? She asked aloud. You don't need anyone to teach you, Melchior answered calmly. Just do whatever you want to. Pardon? Rosaline asked, still puzzled. You must have learned about managing a noble house at the academy, he continued. I only learned the theory. I have no idea how to apply any of it, Rosaline admitted. That's something you have to learn by trying it yourself. Whatever it is, just go ahead and try doing it your own way. If anything goes wrong, you just have to think of a solution, Melchior advised. But that's a lot of trial and error, Rosaline worried. I have to be wary of the Archduchy's reputation. I can't just keep making mistakes. Melchior paused before speaking. Our reputation isn't so frail that a few mistakes will affect it in any way. Relieved but still cautious, Rosaline thought to herself, I thought I had to be perfect, like in the Crimson Rose family. But the Postenmeier Archduchy, it's different. She knew the Archduchy commanded loyalty and respect from many noble families, making it a powerful entity independent from even the emperor. You are allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to fail, Melchior said reassuringly. The Archduchy will be a solid foundation for all your endeavors. No matter how many mistakes you make, you can always start over. Isn't that convenient? Rosaline smiled inwardly, admiring his confidence. She wondered how much Melchior had struggled to reach this position, and who might have supported him through it. Then, a thought crossed her mind. Melchior, she asked carefully, are you still looking for her? The woman who is so important to you, the woman, also named Rosaline, who looks just like me. Melchior stiffened slightly. No, he said after a moment. Why not? Wasn't she your first love? Rosaline pressed gently. My first. He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. No, that's not it at all. Rosaline watched him closely. He's such a bad liar, she thought. Finally, Melchior admitted. Rosaline, no, that person was my teacher. Liar, Rosaline thought immediately. She remembered how excited he had been when he first saw her fighting style, so similar to the woman he once knew. Still, she chose to move past it. Let's think of a different name for her, Rosaline suggested. It's confusing when you have to clarify who you're talking about. Melchior thought for a moment. Meanwhile, Rosaline told herself, it's better this way. After all, he only married me because I look like her. I'm just a replacement. At last, Melchior spoke. Rosaline. Rosaline nodded thoughtfully. That's how you pronounce Rosaline in the East. In any case, Melchior added, it's not like what you're imagining. Rosaline was my savior. I just wanted to find her to thank her. Rosaline smiled to herself. He's in serious denial, but at least I won't have to feel strange about being called by the same name. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the palace, Empress Wilhelmine was furious. I hear that Archduke Postenmeier and the daughter of House Crimsonrose have married, she said bitterly. His Majesty approved the match. Count Beagelhoff, seated nearby, looked anxious. What do we do? Another man present added grimly. The Countess and her son had nothing on them. And there was nothing inside the manor either, said another voice. Wilhelmine's eyes narrowed in anger. Then the only person left is Rosaline Crimson Rose, but Archduke Postenmeier took her away. Count Beaglehall fidgeted nervously. What should we do? If that power didn't return to you even after the Count died, that means… Before he could finish, Wilhelmine struck him sharply with her stick. Stop hounding me! You're making my headache worse, she snapped. You're completely useless, she hissed, pacing the room. She clenched her fists in frustration. Count Crimson Rose is dead, and the noble's gambling house was proof against him, so the likelihood of me getting dragged into this is slim. But the problem is, I wasn't able to retrieve the power His Majesty bestowed upon me. I thought I would regain it as soon as the Count died, but since nothing happened, it must have been passed to his successor. Wilhelmine's expression darkened further. It was something so precious to His Majesty. How could it be taken away from me, just because I lost a bet? Rosaline sat in a grand chair, surrounded by towering stacks of books, her eyes scanning page after page. Thank goodness, she muttered, relieved. They transcribed all of the family records. This should help me figure out how to run this household. She had feared that no records would be kept at the capital residence, but thankfully, she had been wrong. As the lady of the house, it was her duty to assist the head of the family, and Rosaline was determined not to make any mistakes. She leaned over the books, diving deeper into the family history. So Melchior isn't part of the main family line, she murmured. He became head of the family after competing with all the branches. And it only took him a year. That fact suggested he hadn't spent much time with his immediate family. She read on, learning that his parents had passed away when he was young, leaving him to grow up alone at the academy. A pang of empathy tugged at her heart. She knew too well what it meant to grow up without support. As she continued reading, Rosaline discovered that Melchior had once met someone who was both a mentor and a friend during his difficult years. This person had been immensely important to him, and yet, even with the Postenmeier family's influence, he had been unable to find her. Perhaps she was no longer in this world. Was that why he could marry her, Rosaline, without hesitation? As the realization struck her, Rosaline's heart trembled. She was falling in love with him. Suddenly, she shook her head and shouted, Wait, why am I letting this get to me? Anger flooded her voice. It's not like we got married because we love each other. Snap out of it, Rosaline. There's no need for me to find out about his past or get jealous even if he were to cheat on me. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. Rosaline stiffened. What is it? She called out. A servant entered, bowing slightly. Your mother and brother are here and wish to see you immediately. Rosaline's eyes widened in shock. My mother is here? The door swung open, and her mother entered with her young brother, Alphonse. Rosaline! Her mother cried joyfully. Archduke Postenmeier saved us. I know, Rosaline replied stiffly. I can't believe he is willing to take you as his wife. Her mother gushed. We owe him so much. To think, my very own daughter is now the Archduke's wife. Rosaline watched her mother's happiness with a strange feeling. I didn't think you would be so happy about this, she said. Why wouldn't I be? Rosaline fell into bitter thought. Now that we're related to the Postenmeiers by marriage, no one will dare look down on the Crimson Rose family. Yet she knew the truth. The Crimson Roses would only be seen as vassals, barely tolerated by high society. They would be a laughingstock. The Archduke even promised to support us, both with our territory and our manor, until Alphonse comes of age. Her mother continued proudly, but Rosaline said quietly, It'll be a debt you'll have to repay. The Postenmeier family isn't just going to support you for free. You won't be able to repay this debt even if you work for the rest of your lives. Don't be silly. Her mother replied airily. That's why we must be grateful, Rosaline pressed on. Shouldn't we try to repay at least some of the money spent on us? Her mother scoffed. I'm sure Archduke Postenmeier doesn't care about such frivolous details. You have no idea how rich that family is, Rosaline, her voice tight, said. We could use their money for the rest of our lives and it wouldn't even dent their finances. So you intend to spend their money frivolously? Her mother snapped. How dare you speak to your own mother like that? I'm just asking you a question. Rosaline answered calmly. Her mother's temper flared. I don't like your attitude. I gave birth to you. You can't act like this just because your father is no longer with us. Are you going to look down on me now that you're the Archduke's wife? That's not what I'm saying. Rosaline protested. That's what it sounded like. Her mother shouted. You never even tried to come and see us this whole time. You were too busy with your new lover, weren't you? You dragged us into trouble at the manor. I see you haven't changed. You're Alphonse's older sister. Get your act together so you don't embarrass him. The way I live has nothing to do with Alphonse. Rosaline said coldly. That's the kind of attitude that made your previous fiancé break off your engagement. Her mother accused. The Archduke only took you in because you stayed a virgin. That shameful situation led to this blessing, so I was planning to forgive you. I was trying to make amends, but you're such an awful girl. Rosaline's heart twisted painfully. What do you know, Mother? You've never paid attention to me. Even when you forgot about my debut, I thought it couldn't be helped. I couldn't even attend my friends' birthday parties because we couldn't afford it. I became more and more isolated. You made sure I never dared to complain about the endless studying. And when Alphonse was born, everything I worked for was given to him instead. No one was there for me. No one even asked how I felt. If you considered me part of your family, if you loved me as much as you love Alphonse, you wouldn't treat me like this. What does your brother have to do with this? Her mother shouted again. You're not the same. I'm your child too. Rosaline cried, her voice full of pain. Alphonse isn't arrogant like you. Her mother shouted back. Grow up already. You'll regret living like this. Rosaline's voice was sharp and clear. You're right. I regret it already. I should have made it clear earlier, her mother demanded. What? I'm Alphonse's older sister, so I'll make sure Alphonse is taken good care of at this manor, Rosaline said firmly. Her mother brightened a little. You're finally starting to talk sensibly. But, Rosaline continued coldly, since I don't seem to be your daughter, I have no reason to take care of you. Her mother gasped, stunned. Wait! Rosaline! Rosaline stood tall, her voice steady. As the wife of the Archduke, I have the final say concerning everything in this household. She pointed toward the door. Countess Crimson Rose, please leave. Meanwhile, far from the heated confrontation, Archduke Melchior Postenmeier had arrived at the royal palace to meet His Majesty Balthasar. You can't hold a wedding because she is still in mourning? The Emperor asked. Yes, sire, Melchior answered respectfully. Although we aren't allowed to hold a funeral either. Holding an extravagant wedding while she is in mourning would be inconsiderate toward my wife. I see. She did just lose her father, Balthasar said thoughtfully. When did you learn how to be considerate of others, Melchior? You're all grown up. I understand how you feel, Melchior said, bowing slightly. But it would make me look bad if I rushed to approve your marriage without a wedding. You must at least hold a small, informal ceremony. Yes, sire, Melchior agreed. As he left the palace, Melchior mulled over the Emperor's words. If it's just an informal ceremony, it should be enough to bring in a priest and go through the motions. The Empress might still be targeting Rosaline. We have to make sure not to draw attention. Meanwhile, Rosaline stood on the balcony, her thoughts heavy, when she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. She turned to see Archduke Melchior walking toward her. The night was a gentle tapestry of silver moonlight and soft, rustling leaves. The air was crisp and cool, the gardens bathed in a pale glow. Rosaline stood alone on the balcony, staring out into the night, when a sharp voice broke the silence behind her. What are you doing here, Rosaline? Archduke Melchior Postenmeier demanded, stepping into the moonlight, his expression caught between sternness and concern. Rosaline turned, a small, mischievous smile playing on her lips. I was considering running away in the middle of the night, she said lightly. Despite the romantic stillness around them, Melchior's brows furrowed deeply. Even though you've signed the marriage contract? He asked, his tone serious. Rosaline chuckled softly. I was joking, she said, waving a hand dismissively. I was only about to take a walk to get some fresh air. Melchior's eyes softened a little. The moon is bright tonight, but it's still too dark for you to be out alone, he said. Then, taking a step closer, he added, I'll join you. His gaze lingered on her face, and he frowned slightly. Your eyes look red. Are you sick? Rosaline quickly shook her head, turning away. Never mind that, she muttered, but Melchior wouldn't let it go. He reached out, gently touching her hand, a simple gesture, yet one that felt incredibly intimate under the stars. His voice dropped lower, tender. I can't ignore it. I am your husband, after all. Rosaline's heart fluttered at his touch and his words. Standing there under the wide sky, she found herself thinking, I thought this was nothing more than a contract marriage to keep me out of prison. That I was just a substitute for his first love, because I happened to look like her. But Melchior acting like this, like a real husband, is making me feel happy. Together, they began walking through the gardens, the gravel crunching softly beneath their feet. The gardens are huge, Melchior said after a moment. I usually stay at the main manor outside of the city, so they must have neglected this place. I should have hired a gardener ahead of time. Rosaline smiled faintly as she gazed at the wild beauty around them. The flowers are so pretty, she murmured. Melchior glanced at her, warmth filling his voice. Oh, Rosaline, I have something to tell you about our wedding. She blinked at him. Didn't you say we could skip that part? I had planned to, Melchior admitted. But His Majesty ordered us to hold a wedding ceremony unless we have a specific reason not to. I think it would be best to at least have an informal one. Rosaline tilted her head thoughtfully. How many guests will we have to invite then? It can be very small, he reassured her. We could just have a priest come in and marry us. But since your family is here, it might be good to invite a few people who are close to us. Rosaline's heart wavered at the mention of her family. My family? Yes, I suppose so. Melchior noticed her hesitation and frowned slightly. Maybe the idea of a wedding is too bothersome to her? Or maybe she's disappointed because I went back on my word. If you don't want to, we don't have to, he said quickly. I'll speak to His Majesty again. Rosaline shook her head, memories of her mother's cruel words earlier flashing through her mind. No, that's all right. Let's do it. She hesitated, then asked softly. By the way, Melchior, how is your wound? My wound? He repeated, surprised. I injured your shoulder during our duel. She reminded him, her voice tinged with guilt. Melchior smiled faintly. It's fine. It was nothing. What he meant to say was, it doesn't impair my work, so I'm fine. But what Rosaline heard was, it was nothing. You're not a very good duelist. A shadow crossed her face, her voice small and a little sad. I see. So it was nothing. Melchior immediately realized something was wrong. Did I say something wrong? He panicked internally. I recover very quickly, he explained hurriedly. Even if I had been hurt much worse, it would have been fine. Still, Rosaline remained quiet, her steps slowing. Melchior's mind raced, growing more anxious by the second. Her eyes were red earlier. Was she angry with me? Was it because I delayed having her mother and brother visit? Or because I come home late every night? Or maybe it's the shortage of servants. He looked at her again, noticing she was dressed too lightly for the chilly night air. Should I offer her my coat? He wondered. But what if it looks like I'm trying too hard? Be rational, Melchior. How should I act when alone with a woman? Gathering his courage, he decided, I think it'd be best to give her my coat and… Before he could act, Rosaline spoke. Melchior. Let's go back inside. It's late, replied Melchior. All right. Let's go back. Rosaline went in thoughts. It's not like this is the first time we've had an awkward conversation, and I could tell right away that he's the stoic type. So I thought it might be best for us to walk in silence. But how could he not say a single thing while we circled the entire garden? I can't tell what he's thinking at all. Will I be able to survive this marriage? On the other side of the palace, Majesty Balthasar arrived at Wilhelmine's door. Standing outside, he called out gently, My darling Wilhelmine, won't you let me in today? Inside, Wilhelmine stood silently, refusing to open the door. Balthasar, undeterred, spoke again, his voice tinged with humor and a trace of fatigue. The nights are bearable since it's early summer, but I'm also starting to get old, you know. My body may not be able to endure much more of this. At last, Wilhelmine opened the door, her expression unreadable. I could never resist you, sire, she said softly. Balthasar laughed warmly. My beautiful Wilhelmine! So you finally forgive your awful husband. Stop laughing, Wilhelmine said seriously. I might start liking you, but I can't help but laugh when I see your beauty. Balthasar replied, his eyes full of affection. Wilhelmine, sadness clouding her features, moved to the couch and sat down heavily. Balthasar followed her, sitting beside her. Don't be so clingy. Go and sit across from me, Wilhelmine instructed, her tone firm. I'm all cold from the chilly night air. Balthasar protested. I need your warmth. Wilhelmine pushed him away gently but firmly. Go and sit across from me before I kick you out again, Your Majesty. Are you still angry with me? Balthasar asked, a hint of guilt in his voice. For letting the Crimson Rose family go, I mean. Why would I be angry? It was your decision to make, sire, Wilhelmine replied calmly. Balthasar looked at her with pleading eyes. Please forgive me, Wilhelmine. If you keep withholding your affection, I have no reason to go on. For the last 10 days, I was so distraught being away from you that I couldn't sleep. Can't you see how gaunt I look? Wilhelmine, unmoved, answered bluntly. No, I can't. Balthasar chuckled sadly and said, Wilhelmine, my sunshine, I am willing to do anything for you. But if you do not tell me what it is you want, I cannot help you. Please tell me if there is anything you need, Wilhelmine. I don't need anything, Wilhelmine replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Balthasar leaned forward, his voice full of emotion. All I wish for is to live with you and die with you. So if there is anything you wish for, I will do whatever it takes to make it come true.